Hi everyone and welcome to There's No Such Thing as Normal, a podcast about neurodiversity, disability and mental health. I'm Lou, your host, and I'm neurodivergent myself, and I'm also completely blind. So in this episode, I want to talk about the pros and cons of being blind. So I am completely blind and I always have been, and I thought it would be an interesting conversation for many reasons, but I think one of the main reasons is that blindness is often seen as such a negative thing, a tragedy, something really bad. And okay, it's really hard, don't get me wrong, but there are actually, it might come as a surprise, some pros to being blind, as well as the obvious cons and challenges. So, by doing this episode, I want to basically give people more of an insight into what it's like to be blind and the unique experiences that come along with it, and also the different ways in which we experience life and the world around us. And hopefully bust some myths and have a good laugh because, well, some of it is quite funny. So yeah, I want it to be, light-hearted, a bit of fun, and just a real dive into my life, basically. So for me, one of the big positives to being blind is that I have a unique perspective on the world through my other senses. So, whereas sighted people rely on their vision as their main sense, their main source of information of the world around them, I use my other senses, so my hearing, my touch, sense of smell. Those other senses are not heightened at all in the way people think. I don't have super senses, but I am relying on those senses because I don't have the visuals. But it also means that I pick up on things that others don't. I notice things that people would miss if they're sighted because they're not focusing on those other things. So, for example, if I was out for a walk, I might notice the sounds under my feet, or the smells of the flowers, or the sounds of the birds. Not so much the other stuff, maybe the views or the colours around me. I think, it's just a different way of seeing the world, really. But, that does come with a bit of a flip side. I guess the con is that I am curious about what things look like. People talk about the sunset, or they say, oh, it's a beautiful sunset today. Or, oh, that's an interesting horizon. Or they talk about the colours or views. All these visual beauties that I have no idea. And I can't even imagine what those things look like. It's like, I don't know, the horizon is really weird for me because it's like, oh, well, the sun meets the sky. And I know that that's basically just where as far as a person can see. But to me, I'm just like, but how can the sun meet the sky? It just baffles me. I don't get it. And colours as well. I don't really know what colours are. I kind of have an interesting perspective on that. I suppose I know that if, colours like pink, purple and yellow are kind of bright colours, summery, and then, I don't know, I think of green as being the grass and red as being fire, but I don't know what the actual colours are, if you see what I mean. And I guess because I've also never been able to see, I've been blind my whole life, I don't have those visual memories, so I guess it's difficult for me to know. But I'm just curious, really. What do things look like? The visual world to me is a mystery, I guess. But yeah, I'm just curious. I don't ponder it too much or think about it too much. I mean, what's the point? I won't know, so I just don't really think about it. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. But hey, a really cool thing that I can do that other people can't is that I can watch TV anywhere because I don't need to see the screen. I can watch it in the bath, literally just anywhere in the car because I'm just listening. And it's so funny because I'll say, Mum will say to me, "Oh, what are you up to?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just watching telly." She's like, "I can't see no telly." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's because there isn't one. It's in my ears." It's just quite freeing, really. I don't need to worry about that. I can just listen, so that's quite cool. Anyway, I'd rather listen to the telly than, try and read a book in the bath. I've never liked the idea of a soggy book. I mean, no, I do listen to audiobooks in the bath, but it's quite fun. I like that. Gives me a bit of freedom, and it's like, oh, I can do that and you can't, which makes a change. I can do something because I don't need to see rather than not being able to do something because I can't. Quite cool, really. But technology is an interesting one. So I am genuinely so grateful to live in the 21st century where there's incredible technology, assistive tech, all these amazing devices. I genuinely could not be more grateful. And, I can use my phone. I've got voiceover. I can use a MacBook. I've got my Braille note. I can do so many things that without technology I wouldn't be able to do. But there are still issues, and it's a case of, still needs to be worked on. So websites and apps, oh my God. So sometimes I'll be on an app and either it just won't work. Like, I'll literally be tapping on the screen and just be like, nothing. It's like, is there even an app here? Or what is going on? It's just nothing. Sometimes there's buttons that aren't labelled. So my voiceover, it basically speaks what's on the screen. But I suppose app developers sometimes don't label the buttons properly. So sometimes they're mislabelled. And sometimes I literally cannot click a button. And it's like, Mum can just see this button so obviously on the screen and I cannot press it, and it's so frustrating. I'm just like, why can I not press this thing? So that is ultra frustrating. And also sometimes I don't know, press something and it doesn't work, or it, I don't know, does something weird or unexpected. So yeah, that's frustrating, very irritating. But I've also got a smart TV, and it's really clever because it actually talks. I scroll through, it tells me what's on, it tells me the TV guide. It's really, really amazing. I love it. It's great. But, out of all the apps, I can only use Netflix and BBC iPlayer. All the other apps just do not work. And luckily I can use them on my phone and they work perfectly on my phone. But I've got a smart TV. I want to be able to use my apps just like everyone else can. So definitely needs to be worked on. And then there's audio description. And again, that's completely life-changing. I can watch so many things, but not everything has audio description. And if something doesn't, it's extremely difficult for me to watch. I mean, okay, it depends on what sort of TV it is. If it's more of a documentary where people are talking, then it's okay. But audio description is really important, and I get that it takes a huge amount of effort to make it and do it, but, I really need my audio description. And back to the TV, I mean, I was on BBC iPlayer, and I was trying to get audio description on, and I was going through all the menus, and then there was subtitles, and there was nothing after subtitles, and I was like, oh, well, there can't be any. No, it actually turned out there was, but it was just right down the bottom. I mean, why would they put it right at the bottom of the list? It's like, yeah, let's make your life even harder. Let's put the audio description option right at the end, just so you can't see it. Very annoying. Oh, and don't get me started on videos with no speech. Oh my goodness, those YouTube videos you click on, or I guess a lot of I don't know, shorts or short videos. And there's just music and nobody's talking, and I'm just sitting there. just like, is anyone going to talk, or is this just music? I mean, okay, lovely music, but I wanted to listen to this video. If I wanted music, I would ask for music. Please, if you're listening to this and you're making a video, please think about the blind people and please include some sort of talking. So yeah, that's quite funny, really. And then the same for games. Thankfully, there are lots of accessible games, but there's loads of things I can't play, and I do kind of miss out on that playing family games. I mean, I suppose I was thinking, computer games, but also board games. Again, there are lots, but there's always going to be, like, for example, I love Uno, and I've got Uno, but there's loads of variations of Uno Flip, Uno goodness knows what, and I can't get any of them. The only one I can get is original Uno, and don't get me wrong, I love Uno, but I would quite like to play some of the other versions too. So it's about access, there's not everything accessible, so there's always that sense of, okay, well, I'm lucky, I've got lots of things I can do, I make do with what I've got, but there is always this sense of, I know that I can't access as much as everybody else, and that's frustrating, especially if it's something I really want to. But I think something I like about being blind is that because I can't see, I don't judge people, because I literally go on, a person's tone of voice, their personality, who they are. I don't look at somebody and immediately assume anything, or I don't know anything either. So, I mean, there is always that sense of, oh, well, I don't know what that person looks like. I guess sighted people get clues about people based on what they look like, but I can't. But I think it's genuinely a good thing in the sense of I just take people for who they are, and I don't judge, basically. And that's sort of the thing that matters, who a person is, not what they look like. And if everyone was like that and had that opinion, then I think there'd probably be a lot less judgment, really, which is quite important, or very important, I would say. Oh my God, I am always losing stuff, or not just losing stuff, but struggling to find things. So it drives me absolutely mad, and I'll be looking for something for ages, and I will be literally feeling around, and to be honest, half the time my hand is going in a circle around whatever the thing was I was looking for, and it's like I am absolutely confident I've looked everywhere, but no, Mum comes along, and within, I would say, 2 seconds or less, she's found it, and I'm just like, oh, not again. Well, I've been looking everywhere, but no, that one little patch that I didn't look, that's where the thing was, and it drives me crazy. So yeah, that's a common thing, and yes, I try and remember where I've put things, and I have certain places for things, but there's always that sense of, I can't find this thing, and it's so frustrating. Yeah, I do find that to be annoying. Very, very annoying. But I think there's one thing that I would be at an advantage, and that would be if there was like a power cut or there was literally no light, I would be absolutely fine. It would be pitch black, and all the sighted people would be stumbling around and wouldn't be able to do anything, and I would just be like, oh well, I'm all right, I'm used to this, no problems here. Luckily we don't really get power cuts. I've said that now, we'll probably get one, I've jinxed it, but I find it quite interesting. And I actually read this book, and it was called Ella Jones versus the Sun Stealer, and it was basically about this blind girl called Ella Jones, and basically she had a guide dog, and knew all these routes, and basically could sort of do stuff, obviously, without vision. And then all of a sudden the whole world went dark, and all the sighted people were just completely freaking out, and she was like, oh well, I'm all right, and she actually, it was a kids book, it was a kids fiction book, it was really, really cool. And her and her friends went on this massive adventure to basically get the light back in the world. But, Ella was the hero because she could function perfectly well without being able to see. And it was basically complete reversal where rather than her being the one struggling and needing support, it was the sighted people struggling and needing the support because they weren't used to being unable to see, whereas Ella was. And that's why it's such a cool book, because it was all kind of turned the other way around. But it was anyway, yeah, I recommend that for a read. But yeah, I'd say everything takes longer, which is frustrating, I guess, because I have to be much more careful about what I'm doing, more tactile, more deliberate. Things just take longer. And that's a bit annoying because everyone else just seems to be able to do things, super quickly. I don't know, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, like, even just making breakfast, if I'm making cereal, I've got to go a lot more slow with the milk, which I often don't, and I end up having an enormous amount of milk, but that's okay. An extra drink first thing in the morning, why not? But, yeah, things do just take me longer, which is to be expected, and I'm used to it, but, you see everyone else doing things super quick, and it's like the amount of ease that sighted people seem to do stuff, like practical things. It's like, how did you do that? What? It's just not fair. You're just so quick, and I take forever and ever and ever to do that simple thing. But, I get there eventually. And I think that another positive is that because I'm blind, I really appreciate my other senses. So, my hearing, sense of touch, sense of smell, they are vital. And to be honest, I had some troubles with my ears and a while back, but I definitely have developed an anxiety around sort of losing my other senses, not being able to hear properly or not being able to smell properly. Even something simple like, I don't know, if you've got a cold and things smell a bit funny, or if your hearing goes a bit funny, anything like that, it's really scary because I basically need those senses for my survival. So without those, then the world becomes scary. So that's kind of, I guess, a fear of mine is not having those other senses working properly, because I basically rely on them. And of course I'd be scared if they weren't, but it is one of those things where I do appreciate my senses and what I've got, because when you haven't got something, you appreciate what you do, I think. Well, that's kind of my way of thinking about it. But one thing that does drive me a bit mad is people's sort of constant questions. Right, I genuinely don't have a problem with people asking questions. It's completely fine. But it's the same questions over and over, and it's the sort of questions that it's like, I don't know. I think people maybe just need to educate themselves a bit as well. It does just get quite tiring. And I'm not just a curiosity, I'm a person. It's like, people asking me the same questions, like, oh, how do you dream if you're blind? Or, oh, your hearing must be so good. Or, oh, I've done podcasts on these as well. But it's just like, I just think people need to educate themselves, and I'm completely open for questions. I love being asked questions, but if you're going to ask questions, how are you asking them? And just asking them in a way that's not, I guess, a bit rude or a bit just insensitive. It's almost like people that ask, oh, well, how do you do that if you're blind? Or how do you do that? And it's like, they almost sort of, as if they don't really expect you to be able to do stuff. I don't know. It's a bit of a funny one, really. And I guess it's people's views as well. The amount of times that I've had people saying, oh, I'm sorry you're blind, or sort of that pitying thing. I'm just like, well, yeah, but I've always been blind. Don't know any different. It doesn't bother me because I'm not. How can you miss something you've not had? And as I said earlier, yes, I'm curious about what the world looks like, but I've never known, and I won't, as far as I know. So I'm living life in my own way to the best of my abilities. My life isn't tragic. It's just different, and yes, it's hard, but it's not something that should be pitied or felt sorry for. And also, I can still do things just because I'm blind in a different way. I'm not, I don't know, how would you say? I'm not some sort of incredible human. I'm not a miracle. I'm not, I don't know, just amazingly awesome just for living my life. And yes, I can play the piano. Yes, I can use a smartphone. Yes, I can go swimming. I can read Braille. And that's just my way of doing things. And, I've said people are often really, especially with Braille, I guess people see my hands going over these bumpy dots and they go, oh my God, it's amazing. How do you do that? It's so clever. It's so cool. And I'm like, well, yeah, but as far as I can see it, Braille is my way of reading and writing in the same way as using print letters is a sighted person's way of reading and writing. Just in the same way a sighted person's eyes follow the shapes and patterns and squiggles of letters, my fingers follow the shapes and patterns and squiggles of Braille dots. It doesn't mean that Braille is this magical, incredible, special thing. It's just, well, it is incredible and special. I'm not saying that. But I mean, the fact that I can read Braille isn't something that's something, people should be in awe of. I mean, I guess it's something that I can do and other people can't. So they go, oh, well, it's cool because I can't do it. But I think people reading letters with their eyes is a bit, amazing if we reverse it. Because I'm like, well, how do you follow those funny, squiggly letters? And there's so many different shapes. I mean, at least in Braille, there's only 6 dots and there's different combinations. But print letters to me just seem quite confusing. So, just remembering that it's a different way of doing things, but it doesn't mean it's any better or more special or a miracle. It's literally just different. And I know it's hard to understand when you're, I guess, looking at it from an outside perspective and you think it's really cool. And I get it, it is. But I think the same about the stuff that sighted people can do with their eyes. And I think, well, I can't do that. That's really cool. But it's just how people do it, right? And to end on a funny little pro, I absolutely love the fact that I can often skip queues. I don't mean like in the supermarkets, and not that I go to supermarkets anyway very often. I avoid them. I can't skip all queues, but I mean like in theme parks, for example. Although I would be able to get that anyway with my other disabilities, because I'm autistic and ADHD and all that as well. But it's just a general pro, I guess, of being disabled. We get a pass. That means we don't have to queue. We go in the disabled queue line, but then we do have to wait a little bit after the ride, if you see what I mean. But it's quite nice. I think, it kind of brings up the whole thing around visible versus invisible disabilities, because I think being blind, I've obviously got my cane and people know I'm blind, and then they'll sort of be more accommodating, I suppose, and let me go through queues, whereas if I didn't have my cane, they probably wouldn't as much. But that's a whole other thing. But anyway, it's quite fun, and yeah, and also we've got a blue badge, so we get to park in more places, which is nice. We don't have the whole kind of where do we park thing, although we sometimes do still, definitely. But yeah, there has to be some perks, and I do quite like being able to go in, disabled queue lines, and but that is something that I do need. It's not as if I'm sitting here going, oh yeah, it's a luxury kind of thing. It is something that I need. But it's fun. Who doesn't love a bit of queue skipping? But anyway, that's kind of it. I mean, there's probably loads more, and yeah, I could probably think of more, but I hope you've enjoyed it. If you are blind and listening to this, I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you relate to this and my pros and cons, whether you've got your own pros and cons, I would love to hear. So yeah, please do comment and tell me what you think. Please share, and please stay tuned for more episodes because I will be back very soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.